Now, in my last video, I called the Galaxy S24 Ultra LeBron James, the Galaxy S24 Plus D Wade, and the Galaxy S24 Chris Bosh. And you may be thinking that I'm downplaying the Galaxy S24, but if you find out how Chris Bosh's career played out, it's far from an insult. Now, if you know how Chris Bosh's career played out, he was a superstar who was the first option on his team when he played for the Raptors, but he eventually got traded to the Miami Heat to play alongside LeBron James and D Wade, which ultimately made him the third best option. Kinda like the Galaxy S24. But if you know anything about how this panned out for his career, you know that he went on to win a bunch of awards, go to consecutive All-Star games, and went on to win 2 championships. Basically meaning that he had a Hall of Fame career. And again, this is the perfect example of what I see for the S24 story. So far, it has done nothing but impress, produce quality, and leave a long-lasting impression while still being able to stand out from the Galaxy S24 Plus and Ultra. So far, it's been able to keep a very nice simplicity that its core audience, including myself, loves. It has a welcoming presence, welcoming colors, and the best way that it separated itself from the more expensive flagships is by not being as expensive, but still providing quality. Now, first and foremost, I will say that unlike most of my new phones, I have yet to put a case or a screen protector on my S24, and I've been really testing the durability over the past 2 weeks, and I will say that for its price, especially compared to the Pixel 8 that has horrible scratch resistance, it's doing pretty well. Taking a closer look at the screen, I have yet to have a minor scratch or scrape, which is pretty impressive since I've had some hiccups along the way. There were a few times where my brain was on autopilot, and I ended up putting my S24 in the same pocket as my keys. Not the best idea, but I'm glad that I didn't have to pay for that. There are also other occasions where I would drop the phone out of my hand by accident, or I would be chilling in my living room and it would drop off from the couch. And fortunately, each of these 4 times that I accidentally dropped it, it was on the same hardwood floor in my apartment and didn't result in any blemishes whatsoever. Durability wasn't the only thing that the S24 had going on for it. It was easily the most comfortable phone to hold and use when compared to the S24 Plus and Ultra. It was about 0.5 to 0.6 inches smaller with rounded edges and a boxy frame. The comfort came in especially with the rounded corners. Where the phone rests in my palm is where the edge is, and unlike the Ultra, which has a boxy, more sharper poke when holding, the S24 still gave that boxy aesthetic, so it looked new while also knowing where to conform. It came with even more ease since it has a 6.2 inch display, so it was easier to reach the top of the display whenever I needed to get to my notification bar or tap on a certain action when I'm using an app. Now, aesthetic is also a department where this phone continues to improve and shine. I vividly remember the Galaxy S23 having a pretty rounded frame all around, but the S24 has by far been my favorite because it kind of embraced the more boxy feel. I've also been using my iPhone 15 Pro to shoot videos, and I realized that despite its price, in terms of aesthetic, the S24 and 15 Pro have a lot of similar qualities. They both have a very clean matte feeling back. They both have a boxy frame with rounded corners. They are damn near the exact same size. Both have a flat display. Both have USB-C, and in hand, these phones don't feel that different at all on the outside. And this can be a good or bad thing depending on if you like the iPhone's design, but I will say that Samsung making this move has not only made the design more appealing to the average consumer, but I will also say that it completes the aesthetics surrounding the S24 series because usually, the Ultra will be the only sharp looking phone, but now we have the whole lineup looking similar. So what about battery life? What's the difference between the Galaxy S24 2 weeks ago compared to the Galaxy S24 now? Well, I will say that compared to the previous Galaxy S23, it really hasn't been that much of a step up. The S23 had a really good battery to begin with, so there was only so much they could improve on, and the battery on the S24 being similar is not an insult in the slightest. This time around, I was able to get more heavy usage out of it. I played a lot of Call of Duty and I maxed out the settings, not only because it made the game look good, but also because I wanted to see how the battery would do with that kind of pressure. And throughout most of my days, I would do heavy gaming and would usually get around 4 to 5 hours of screen time, which is really good for a smaller phone. On days where I didn't feel like playing a game, I would be on social media or YouTube, and I would get up to 6 hours on those days. On average, I'm ending my day below 15%, and this is without any power saving mode. My 5G stayed on, my brightness stayed up, especially when I was gaming, and my always on display stayed on whenever I sat my phone down. But there are some downsides that distinguish this phone from the Galaxy S24 Ultra or even the S24 Plus, and as the years go on, charging speeds have been a major feature when it comes to Android phones. The S24 Ultra and S24 Plus can charge up to 45 watts, which means that you're getting 0 to 100 in just under an hour, but with the Galaxy S24, we still will only be getting 25 watts, which is okay, but the value has gone down. Another downside of having the Galaxy S24 and not the S24 Ultra or Plus is that instead of having a 1440p Quad HD display, it only has a 1080p display that still looks good, but just not as good as the Plus or Ultra. Right here, I'm playing a colorful video on my S24 and comparing it to my S24 Ultra, and even though it is a downgrade on the spec sheet, I think that for the price and the fact that it's not far from the more quality screen, it's not that much of a downside. But enough talking about the downsides that I've encountered when it comes to the Galaxy S24. Time and time again, the display has really been able to shine in different aspects. The colors, the contrast, and the brightness have all contributed to why the S24 looks so great despite having a lower resolution. The fingerprint sensor is still incredibly fast and accurate. It's my preferred method when I unlock my S24, and I personally think that it's the best for its price range. Even better than the Pixel 8 Pro despite being a cheaper phone. I even compared the facial recognition to the iPhone's Face ID, and if I'm going to be honest, the S24 is not there yet. It's not as fast and it's definitely not as accurate when compared to any iPhone in the 15 series. Now, something that the Galaxy S24 did better than the 15 Pro when it comes to the display is brightness. The Galaxy S24 has up to 2600 nits of peak brightness compared to the 15 Pro's 2000 nits. And as you guys can see, there are some areas where the S24 is competing with heavy hitting phones that cost over $1,000. So why do I sometimes prefer the Galaxy S24 over the Galaxy S24 Ultra or even the Galaxy S24 Plus? Well, it's because the Galaxy S24 gives me a certain feeling that I've been missing for a long time. A very nice compact phone that gets the job done. Now, if we're being honest, the Galaxy S24 is a very boring phone. But it's a good boring because over the past few years, Samsung has really shaped it, fixed its previous mistakes from the past generations, and has made arguably the best phone in its price range. I missed having the comfort of a smaller phone. I love the fact that it's more comfortable to hold. I love the fact that it doesn't feel that much different from top tier phones in terms of quality. And I really like the fact that this phone was made for the average consumer that just wants a solid Android experience. Even taking a look at pictures side by side with the Galaxy S24 and S24 Ultra, you can see that there are very little differences here and there, but they ultimately gave me damn near the exact same results. Selfies are damn near the exact same brightness, the same contrast, the same skin lightening problem, the same depth of blur, and they also have the same amount of AI features in case you want to get creative. Videos are also the same. They have the same amount of modes and are the exact same when it comes to autofocus, color distortion, and the ability to produce a high quality video at any given moment. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the Galaxy S24 after 2 weeks of use. There aren't a lot of phones where I can say that they have not only given me a really great solid experience in this price range, while also beating out these phones in certain categories. The Galaxy S24 is the perfect phone for someone who doesn't really care about having the best of the best. So if you want a solid phone that will give you that classic Samsung experience, while also being able to pack a punch and not be as expensive, go with the Galaxy S24. Peace.